Hey there, Michelle. How you doing?
Hey guys, coming off of episode 2000, which was amazing.
Oh my
That was
gosh.
great. So great hearing from our listeners, guys. If you haven't checked out 2000 yet, definitely listen to that. I can't believe we're on our second
Oh,
2000. We're starting the
I know, Michelle. It's insane. We're going to be podcasting until we're old ladies.
Yeah,
I mean, it's crazy. We just love it so much. So we just keep going, I
that's
mean,
right. Why
that's what
stop?
you do
Why
when you love
stop?
something. Yeah, I love it. So
Uh,
good. Well, Michelle, I have a question to start off today's episode for you. Are
all
you
right,
ready?
let's hear it.
So, what do you think is the number one reason that students, like our listeners, for example, don't improve their English? They're having problems, they're not seeing improvement. What is it? What's that number one reason?
I would say that it's fear of failure and therefore not. I would say not putting in the work as far as applying English to the daily life. So I would say if somebody, I mean, frequently I've spoken to students, how do you practice English outside of the classroom, outside of whatever?
Mhm.
And they say, oh, that they don't really,
Yeah,
and that
yeah,
maybe they live with roommates of who are also learning English and
right.
they don't speak English with them, and I understand to a
Yeah,
certain extent, like, you're tired, you don't wanna speak
yeah.
English,
It's
all the
exhausting.
time, and yeah, it is exhausting, and you just wanna relax at home, but I would say, like, putting in that 10 minutes, just 10 minutes, having certain goals like that outside of the classroom, putting you gotta put in the work outside of class.
Yeah, so that's really the number one thing
That's
is
what I think.
not I think you're right. I think and it manifests differently for intermediate advanced students what
Mhm.
they should be doing versus what beginner students should be doing. Right? I think intermediate advanced outside of the class, they should actually be using the language. Maybe we're reading an English newspaper, we're starting a
Yeah.
conversation, but beginner it's the same thing. It's just that maybe we're working on flashcards. Like I have my
Mhm.
Quizlet app here for my Arabic. The reason
Mhm.
I'm bringing this up is Michelle, I am hitting a wall with my Arabic studies.
Oh, yeah?
um, this episode I think is coming out after I come back, so we'll see how I did. But right now it's before, and I've hit a wall, and I
Hmm.
realized there's one single reason why I've hit a wall.
Why?
It comes down to one thing. I'm not putting in the time outside of class.
Mm.
So we've had students come to us. I remember one of our students, one of our loyal students, amazing students and listeners asked me in one of our live group classes about 6 months ago. He said, I come to all these classes. Why am I not getting better?
Hmm.
And I said, it's because I said, how much are you doing outside of the class? Because the
Yeah.
reality is, guys, your live classes are not the time in which you're improving. That's kind of like the test. Let's use
Right.
that word. It's the checking. It's the check of what you have learned outside of the class, Michelle. You know?
Mhm. Right, 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 exactly. That's kind of like setting you off, like, "Here
Yeah.
we go," like, "Fly, fly birdie, fly,"
Fly.
like,
Yeah. Right. 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 Yeah.
you can't you're it's just like, lighting the match, basically.
It's letting them match. It's a chance for you to get a reward. We're animals in the end. We need rewards, dopamine hits. And there is a reward when my Arabic teacher asks me a question and I can answer that. I know exactly what he asked me and I can answer it back in Arabic. That is so rewarding. So today we're talking about the difference between a virtuous cycle and a vicious cycle,
Mm.
right?
Ooh,
I mean, what do
this
you
is
think this
cool.
means? Yeah, what do you think is the difference when it comes to learning? What would a virtuous cycle look like in your mind, Michelle?
Well, gosh, I'm trying to think. I mean, a vicious cycle, I'm thinking, would be something that just like doesn't get any better. You get yourself into this
Yeah.
just like way of like you're not doing work, you're not improving, you get upset. You're not doing work, you're not improving, you
So you
get
do
upset.
the work, so you get it, so you don't do the work, you don't improve, and you get it.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, and that's where that I have been experiencing a little bit of that, to be honest, because what's been
Hmm.
happening is I'm booking a lot of lessons. So I get that dopamine hit when I book my lesson. I say, okay, next Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, I'm going to book 30-minute lessons. I'm doing the work. Actually, I'm not doing the work. Just booking those
Hmm.
lessons and showing up is not the work. Okay. The
Hmm.
work
Right.
is my Quizlet app. I'm using Quizlet as my
Mm.
key study tool. And I haven't been doing that as much as I should because
Hmm.
that's where I prepare for the show. The show is the class, right? The show is the class. The show is where I get tested on what I've learned. And so
Hmm.
that means I come away from the class feeling a little bad, a little
Mm.
scared of the language, a little bit like, "Ooh, maybe I can't do this." And then I feel less motivated to study.
Ugh.
Versus, what would a virtuous cycle look like? What if I actually spent more time prepping?
Right, you spend more time, you get I guess it's like you get the ball rolling and more positive things keep on happening, and then you
Yeah.
just keep improving.
Exactly, exactly, that's it. So, Michelle, how much time I'm going a little bit of out of order in our notes here, but how much time do you think that what do we recommend? I've realized that there is a metric that I think we can recommend to our students. How much actual time should we spend outside of class preparing for that class? Like, what would be a ratio,
Oh,
class time to study time?
okay, well, I'm looking in our notes at what we were yeah, I would say 2 to 3 times the time to study outside
Yeah.
of class, right, Lindsay?
Exactly. Yeah, I really think, maybe before I would have thought, "Ooh, that sounds like a lot," but now that I'm especially as a beginner, you really need to I don't think too many of our listeners are beginners, but maybe some of you guys are intermediate, lower intermediate. You need a lot of time. And we
Right,
need to also involve a lot of senses. I'm not doing enough listening, but I also if I do a 30-minute class,
yeah,
after that class, I should spend 60 to 90 minutes studying what I practiced in class or the
right.
new things that were introduced to me in class. Because especially if I learn new things in that class, if I don't spend that time, there's no way I can come back next time and I know my teacher's going to ask me the question. I can't do it. Well, there's no way I can do it. I mean, I have no context for this language,
Okay,
right?
so here's the question, do you think that 60 to 90 minutes should be all at once or split up? Or does it matter?
That's a great question. I think it would be smart to split it up. I think it
Mhm,
depends on you how you study. I know
mhm,
that I learn best by moving and taking in information. So
mhm.
I need podcasts. I haven't found a great podcast yet. But how would you do it, Michelle?
I mean, I would split it up as well. It depends on how much time you have, but I mean, we've talked a lot about on this show about not overwhelming yourself. So, like, if you
Hmm.
see, oh, I should do 60 to 90 minutes outside of
Yeah.
class after, it's like that can sound a little bit overwhelming. But if you think about it as 10, 20 minutes a day, that's, more manageable, and you can break it down and kind of reinforce things in a better way and let your
Yeah.
brain and let your brain adapt to what you're learning,
Yep.
rather than just doing
Hmm.
it all at once and kind of flooding all your senses and getting
Oh,
overwhelmed.
yeah. 100% agree, Michelle. It's really about how do we take our study tool and integrate it into our when we're waiting in the doctor's office, I can easily pull out my app and look at my flashcards. I can play a matching game, right? I can
Mhm.
take a little test in my app. When I am walking my dog and the dog's playing with other dogs, I could play with the app and Quizlet. Like what can it's a how do we let it bleed into our lives to remember to pick
Mm.
that up and actually do that, right?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. It can be anything, like you said, it can be Quizlet, it can be you listen to a radio show for 10 minutes,
Mhm. Yeah.
it can be you talk with a friend, but yeah,
Right.
you have to put in that time, in the
There's
way
no
that's gonna be most
substitute.
effective for you.
Yeah, there's no substitute for the time, and that was
Yeah.
my answer to our student who said, "Why am I not getting better?" Yeah, you're coming to the classes, but these are 30-minute classes where you're learning new things. This is
Mhm.
not studying English. This is kind of the performance moment where we see how much studying you've done. That's the reality, right? That is the balance between class and study, guys. And you know that feeling, Michelle, where I think a lot of our listeners struggle with this, where when they're learning a new language, and if your teacher asks you a question in class, the first thing that comes to mind if you don't feel confident is that filter goes up and you say, "Oh my gosh, I don't know the answer." Do you
Mhm.
know what I mean? It blocks your
Right.
mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
And
right.
so mhm. Part of what I've noticed and why I think this is so important for our listeners to keep in mind of the study time is that reduces that filter, that brings that down. So it actually makes you lead with, "I do know it. I think I know this, and now I have clarity of mind to find the word."
Right, and then when you go to the next class,
Mhm.
you won't be so nervous. You will say, "Okay, no, I know this. I've worked for this, and I can
Yes.
do this."
Yeah, I mean, I think it is so important to be in the right headspace when when it's time to perform with the
Mhm,
language, and the
mhm.
thing that's gonna get you there, guys, is that practice. So there's no substitute. So
No substitute.
you can hire a tutor for every day of the week. But if you're not spending time outside of that class, it's not going to work,
And
especially at the lower levels.
And
Yeah.
then you might, like, almost, like, blame you might start to place blame where it shouldn't be placed. Like, you might start to
Yeah.
place blame on the teacher. Like, "Oh,
Right.
the
Right.
teacher isn't good," and it's like, "No, the teacher is giving you what you need to succeed. It matters what you do with it." I mean, 2 different students can get 2 completely different things out of the same class.
Oh my gosh, and we see this a lot with our IELTS course, of course,
Yeah,
right? Some students are in our basic plan for 3 Keys IELTS. In 30 days, they have gotten their 7 and they are ready to immigrate. They're moving on. And then others don't necessarily put in the time on their own, which is totally required, that independence, and they maybe don't quite get there, right? So
yeah,
it's there's so much of ourselves that's involved, like self-driven learning as adults, because we're not sitting in a classroom as kids. So 90% of your work is outside of class.
mm.
That I think is the key takeaway for today, Michelle.
I think so too. Yeah, absolutely. Just really you gotta put in the work. You gotta put in the work.
Yeah. So, guys, this is, what I've learned through the last, 6 or 8 weeks of Arabic classes. And, my trip to Egypt will be the true test of how well it worked. But I know how to get myself out of the vicious cycle. Right. So
Right,
now you guys know what to do. You know how to
right.
get yourself out of it. You know how to get away from the affective filter coming up and saying, I don't know, the panic. You know how to get out of it. So go and do it. All right. That's
Yes.
it.
Yes,
That's the
I
message
love
for
it.
today.
I love it, guys. Yes, you will be able to do it. You gotta get yourself in that healthy mindset. You gotta
Yep.
put in the work. And I think that you'll start to very quickly notice a difference in your motivation and your progress. I think it's almost immediate, honestly.
Yeah, 100%, Michelle. So good, so good. So, guys, we mentioned IELTS in this episode. Michelle, where can our listeners go to get a taste of IELTS? What podcast could they listen to?
Listen to the IELTS Energy podcast with Jessica and Aubrey. It is an amazing podcast. You will learn, you will laugh, you will have fun, and you will feel
Yeah.
prepared for the IELTS exam.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing what we can learn when our brains relax. It's kind of what we were just saying with that panic that we're trying to reduce by spending time studying
Mhm.
outside of class. When we relax, like when we consume IELTS energy, all ears English, our brains come down and it's almost like I'm having fun here,
Right.
right? I'm having fun, I'm laughing, and we just learn and we don't know we're learning. It's incredible. So,
That's why we do it. That's why we do it the way we do it.
you got it, Michelle. Thanks for hanging out with me today and talking about this. Such a key topic.
Thank you. This is awesome, Lindsay, and good luck with Arabic on your trip.
Oh, thank you. It's test time, right? We'll see what
You can
happens.
do it. You got this.
All right. Take care. Talk soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.